keynote speaker is Kevin, and I'll pass it on to you.
Good morning. This morning, my challenge is to present to you what knowledge I have in the way of product development, new product development. I've got many and varied background to the extent that I've worked for a number of companies that were rather large, one of which was Bosch Power Tools out of Germany. The other was Illinois Tool Works of the U.S., both Fortune 500 companies, significant players in the area of product development, and in turn, those two, as well as a number of other employers that I've had, have provided me with an opportunity to gain some real true experience that I hope I can impart to you today as far as new product development. So moving to the next slide. New product development, I want to differentiate it from innovation to the extent that as we see our friend Mr. Einstein here, he was an innovator. He had remarkable skills insofar as being a visionary of where science can go. Where I think the challenge that Einstein had, though, insofar as his particular experiences and career, were that he was reliant on a number of other people to actually validate and execute, frankly, a lot of his ideas. So as much as he was an innovator, he wasn't necessarily an executor, where I juxtapose him against our friend Steve Jobs. He not only was an innovator, but I think his forte was making it happen, to the extent that he reviewed opportunities, identified them, and in turn was able to create a very disciplined organization and process to allow his ideas to hit the market and be commercially viable. Moving to the next slide. So really, I want to differentiate the two concepts. Innovation is really a process of discovery, of finding, and employing one's imagination productively, where I see new product development as a process applied to the business and engineering market, wherein an idea is brought and created into a new product and launched in market. So as a recap, we have innovators and we have new product development as a process. And as you can see, it can get pretty static from the perspective of following the rules of the road. But ultimately, to launch a product, you absolutely have to be disciplined to ensure that you know what you're launching, you know the market into which you're launching it, and you've really created a roadmap for yourself to ensure your success insofar as the development of the product and its launch. So I think the whole process for developing a product requires a 360-degree view of any number of things, one of which is your company or yourself. I think you really have to have a fair knowledge of where you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and what capabilities you have so that you can take advantage of those opportunities. Beyond that, I think you should really have a handle on the product that you are currently involved with. If you do not know what you have, it's very difficult to know what you need insofar as the development of new products. I think similarly, a knowledge of the market in which you play is absolutely critical for every company. Many of the companies I've worked for in the past, they find themselves in places and they don't necessarily know where they are, to the extent of I think they've over many years developed a number of products and then have kind of missed the mark for a while, and as a result they really don't know where they are in the market. So a critical assessment is something that prudent businesses do of their own market, so that they know where they're going to participate. Another instrument that's very, very important, back we go, sorry. Another instrument that's very important, I'll talk to in a minute, has to do with a quad analysis, and this is something that I'll just allude to in a couple of slides. Finally, competition. As much as we talk about market, that doesn't necessarily reference competition. I think competition is a real specific, focused say, laser beam approach insofar as in knowing your competition, you should know every single product that you're going to compete with and be able to identify the largest ones right down to specifications and pricing and market. Moving on to next. So a company SWAT is a fairly important thing to do, and this is it's an instrument that's used by a lot of the large consulting services, and I think a lot of the prudent businesses around the globe, to sit down and assess your company's strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And it looks like it's a one-off bookish exercise, but it's really an evolving process. As you go through each year, I think in the course of a business planning process, you should employ one of these just to really get a firm grounding of where you sit, what's evolved over the last year, and further to set objectives for your business as the year comes on. The next piece of analysis is really down to products and markets. This is where you look at where you are, quite specifically your existing products and your existing markets. And this is obviously presuming that you have a pre-existing business. If you don't, obviously you're going to be working with new products and new markets, which has its own challenges insofar as definition. Looking at your existing products as well, there's always an opportunity to look at new markets to vend those products, and that's obviously a good trigger for your marketing people to explore new avenues to sell product. And finally, taking your new products and selling them into existing markets, how well you align to those markets from the perspective of those new products is very important. Obviously, you have to position your product to make sure that you can penetrate an existing market. And on to the next slide. So in the past, I've used a number of different instruments in order to help guide me in my development initiatives. Presuming that all of the preceding efforts have been done from the perspective of SWAT, market, quad, really looking at where your business is, as well as what your portfolio represents, your new product should really be articulated quite clearly if you're looking to launch one. So a new product, I use a discipline of a worksheet. And essentially this worksheet demands that you describe your product rather thoroughly. You have a target price for your product to market. You also have a target cost that you want to achieve insofar as the development of that product, the sourcing of that product, or for that matter, the building of that product. You know your retail. So this is presuming that you're going to be working with a distribution channel. So not only will you need your cost, you're going to need your target price from the perspective of what you're going to sell that product to a distributor for. And as well, you're going to need what the retail is going to be so that it's viable, positioned against competitors in the market. You need to define the market that you're going to go into. Are you going to be selling on a B2B basis? Are you going to be selling on a business to consumer basis, a B2C? As well as, frankly, what channels you're going to use to get this product out to market, who you're going to partner with in order to ensure that this new product that you're developing is right for them. Forecasting is obviously a fairly important thing, which will flow through the whole exercise. If you're forecasting the development of a product that's only going to sell 330, 300, and you've got a fairly high cost that you're targeting, it's appropriate that you do an extended forecast so you know what your net return is going to be on the launch of that product. Over and above that, timing. Timing is a very critical thing. Timing is kind of the all-important thing from a product development perspective, in that you see an opportunity today that you initiate a process of development for, which will involve you taking 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, 48, however many months to ultimately get that product developed and launched into market. And not only is the the overall time frame critical from the point of view of the development of the product and making sure it will be embraced in the market. But over and above that, even seasonality can be a very important thing. If you want to sell a product for Christmas time, having it available in January isn't necessarily beneficial to anyone. It'll certainly delay the process of getting placement on the product. On to the next slide, we're getting into even greater specificity in that when you're developing a product, as much as you have a development worksheet which talks kind of at a 30,000-foot level as far as the product that you're aiming to develop and the market you're going to go after, you ultimately in the development of a product have to be extremely specific as far as what you're trying to achieve. And this comes down to issues of specification that can be size, weight. It can be the packaging that goes with it, the accessories that are employed to complement the product, warranties and instructions. There's a whole plethora of different specific technical issues which will drive what the product will be, what ultimately your cost is going to be, what you can achieve, and how sellable it's going to be in market. So we've gone through and we've done a considerable amount of book work to the extent of assessing your company, assessing where you are in the market, defining opportunity, defining a sellable product or service, and then over and above that, getting down to some specific detail. So there's a lot of homework that's already gone in, and in the earlier slide that I had that detailed the process of product development, there were a lot of ifs and ands and buts and ors as far as whether a product will even make it through the process. And really, at this point in the presentation, I'm going to talk about what the process is. So typically, you're going to have an engineer, a product development person, a product champion of some sort or other who is going to do all of the book work, all of the research in advance of actually initiating the process of development with the management of a company. A number of companies that I've worked through in the past, they have employed a gate system. Anyone in new product development is certainly familiar with the gate system or critical pathing. What the gate system is it's represents milestones that the product development process goes through interfacing with the people with the money, let's say. When you're developing a product, there's a considerable investment that goes into it. And the way that I look at every product that I've developed in the past has been, I've got to go to the banker. And typically the management, that can be the CEO, the president, any one of the VPs, whether in purchasing or engineering, sales or marketing, all of those individuals should be involved in order to share the responsibility for saying yay or nay to the development of product. And again, the instrument that has been used in the past, that I've used in the past, has been a gate process. So as far as the gate process, essentially what it does is it feeds all of your ideas into management sign-off. So you've done considerable research. You should be prepared insofar as the process in gate one to take all that research and pitch it. It's no different than selling to a customer, except you're selling to your executive management, where you've done sufficient research into a product that you can justify it. And in the course of justifying it, I've gone so far as to actually get sign-off. So you've got this gate process, and the advancement of a product is really mandated by putting ink to paper on the part of those major stakeholders who are supporting it for the business. So presuming that the product investigation that you've done, the preliminary product investigation that you've done is satisfactory, you take this and advance it, pitch it to the executive management, and presuming that they sign off, then the real research starts. So this is even more in-depth research of the product and the market you're going into. If you had preliminary information on competition before, you need in-depth information insofar as that competition. Investigating where they are, investigating price points. Some of the retail work that I've done in the past has involved actually doing complete retail shops on all the retailers in a given area, whether in Canada, US, or otherwise, and getting right down to what's the product, with whom am I competing, what are the specifications of the competition, what price points are they being offered, what competitive or promotional offers are being put out there as well to help drive the product. So you really get a firm handle on the landscape into which you want to slot your product, and have a firm knowledge of the necessary price points, and even in order to make that product salable. So pricing, kind of a do or die scenario with new products, to the extent that when you go through the process and you define exactly what you're trying to achieve, be certain of the price that you want to accomplish in market. This is going to drive the whole process of actual physical development of the product, and determine whether, as you develop the product, whether it's going to make it to market. There's a thing in the new product development cycle called product creep. I don't know whether any of you have experienced that before. I certainly have, to the extent that you go into an exercise developing a product and quite clearly articulating it by way of the product worksheet as well as the product spec sheet, knowing what you want to achieve. And then in turn, as you move through the gate process, presenting the product and gaining learnings on what you're going to be competing with, a product can become more feature rich, namely more expensive. Other things can come up, to the extent that as you're developing the product, certain components within it can start to increase in price based on commodity prices. Any number of things can impact cost, and really having a firm handle on your pricing and what your objectives are as you go into market is going to be critical to the success of the product. So you've done advanced investigation into the product. You've perhaps gone out and bought competitors' products, so you have a true understanding of what you're going to be competing with. And at that point, you're going to do an even further in-depth pitch to the management, to the extent of all of the things that I've talked about, gaining knowledge of market product competition and how this development can complement your business, is taken and it's done as okay, I'm going after this. Now we're going to need some money. So the product champion becomes the product expert. And at this point, the engineering is typically involved after a gate 2 is signed, to the extent that you want to go from a concept to developing a physical product. So the product is designed. Typically, a design product is prototyped. That prototype is taken out to a client base for validation, depending on whether it's an engineered product. It can go right into the people who are going to use it from an installation perspective. So ultimately, what's gleaned to this process is features, benefits, and unique selling proposition that this product has. You know what the hot spot is going to be when it's offered into the market. Talking to prototyping really briefly, I found the ability to prototype a concept and take it to market can also be not only a remarkable thing from the point of view of gaining customer insights, perspectives, biases, but it can also help you determine whether a product is even going to be salable at all, whether it is going to be viable from the point of view of its use, its the desirability, its value equation. So once you've gone through the process, you've determined that this is a viable product, you've got it essentially pre-manufactured to the extent that you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's on a cost basis, on a design basis, on a marketability basis. You probably have already pitched it to potential customers. Then you take that process back, that material back to the management and present it as essentially a pitch for capitalization of the project. So presuming that the project, you've done your duty, you've really got a viable product, then engineering at that point will start drawing in the marketing people. The product will get capitalization. Management will say, okay, go, spend the money, and tooling will be made. The product will be manufactured. Marketing is involved from the point of view of creating packaging, creating the pitch, creating the training package for the sales force so that they can go out and know exactly how to sell the unique features of the product into market. And I guess ultimately you're going to start placing product on shelf. So that gate 3 is really the do or die of a product, to the extent that many great ideas, many innovations die on the vine for a lack of money to fund their ultimate execution. Once you've gone through that whole process, you've got the product in market, then it's time to look in the mirror. And you've looked at what you forecasted, you've looked at what you achieved, either you've exceeded your expectations or not. And at this point, if not, then invariably there's some reckoning to experience from the point of view of the management. Why did you not earn that which you personally stated you would with this product? Or alternatively, on the flip side, if a product flies, if it's far and away exceeded the expectations that you had for it, then a prudent champion would go back to the management and say, hey, you know what, we need capitalization from the point of view of keeping up with demand. So it's a very difficult process, but I think it's a prudent one from the point of view of by going through a gate process for development through to manufacture and post-sale assessment, a company should benefit from learnings. How did this process go? How did the champion do on the job? How did all of the stakeholders who shared in this responsibility support this initiative? And ultimately, did we hit the mark? Did we hit our budget? Did we exceed our budget? Did we fall short? All very important things. Product development is not a perfect process. It is discipline, and I think the more disciplined the process is followed, the more likelihood there is to a company ultimately seeing success in it. And on to our next slide. There was an article that I was reading. It was from Forbes magazine, and it was put out in 2010. It was an assessment of the number of consumer products that were launched in the preceding year. And based on some 250,000 global launches, somewhere between 85 and 95% of these launches failed. So it's pretty easy to see that the process of developing new products is laden with a lot of dead soldiers along the way. Excuse the term, but unfortunately, there's so much competition out there. Just having a good idea, being an innovator, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hit the mark. I've personally been involved with a number of uniquely innovative and competitive products that when we got to the capitalization level, we all kind of sat at the table and said, nope, this one's got to stop because it's going to be too expensive. It's not going to hit the volume. The tooling's going to be unrecoverable from an investment perspective, or the market's just not ready for the product. So I've been very, very lucky throughout my career. I have never had a product that I have taken and launched in market fail. A unique thing, but having worked for some of the large companies that I have, it's, I think, reflective of the discipline that those organizations have applied to the process of new product development. And in turn, I hope that this seminar is imparting to you some of that discipline that I've been able to pick up along the way. There's no light bulb here. And I think at this point, if we can turn to the next page, quite simply, there is no light bulb. Thomas Edison actually did not invent the light bulb. Thomas Edison figured out 10,000 ways not to make the light bulb, and what he did succeed in doing ultimately was develop a product that was salable. And I think that new product development is very much like that. It's you're not always going to have a winner. And as a product champion, being responsible, overseeing the new product development process is something that's it's a personal investment. It's a passionate thing. You know, when you have done all of the research associated or referenced rather in this presentation, you'll find that you're going to have a personal stake in the development of the product that you're making. And to some extent, I've looked in the past as the products I've developed as my own children. And in the course of developing them, when ultimately you have to say no, it's a bitter pill to swallow. It truly is. Business, in some extent, business can be cruel to a new product and to a product champion, because I think any person who is associated with this process really, if they aren't passionate, they shouldn't be involved, and they should be prepared to take the knocks as well when something they personally have been associated with just doesn't make it to market. I think that's basically the crux to my presentation. You know, fundamentally, this whole new product development process is a process, and it absolutely demands that very, very good research is done, that the person associated or the organization associated with the product being developed truly know what it is that they want to sell and how they want to sell it, where they want to sell it, and for how much. They have to be disciplined enough to be able to follow a process of development. Homework has to be done, and I think by way of the homework that is done, if it's effective, the result is that both the product champion as well the organization can hit a home run. And as I've experienced in my career from a development perspective, I've hit a lot of home runs specifically because of the discipline that's been associated with the development process.
Thanks so much, Kevin. That was great. I have lots of questions. I'm not quite sure how many questions are out there. I'm just going to stop recording.